You're listening to Mondays Unfiltered, the podcast for anyone who's accepted that work is inevitably work. We're your hosts, Heather and Kristen. We break down burnout, baffling policies, and corporate chaos with dry humor and real solutions. Grab your coffee and whatever optimism survived the weekend, Mondays have begun. A little about us. Chris spent decades helping executives shape brands and craft messages that inspire, and I built systems that actually made those visions work behind the scenes and kept people from falling apart in the process. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, our first session.
Our
It's
first
Heather and
session. So
Chris.
exciting.
Yes. Yeah, I know. So, where do we start, Heather? Why are we doing this? What is the show about? What are we
Yeah,
talking about?
exactly. So great question, Kristen.
I'm
I feel,
interviewing you.
yeah, I feel like it's important for people who are listening to us to understand how we met, what our backgrounds are, and why this is important to us. So, as you and I know, but everyone else isn't aware that we met on a coaching program, which was poignant. We were both looking for the same thing. And, as we talked and met outside of those sessions and got to know each other better, we had like the same aspirations and goals for our clients and for our businesses. And the more that we talked about our history, our experiences in our jobs, and some of the struggles that we had, we thought maybe this would be an opportunity for us to share some of those experiences and opportunities for growth. Hoping, from my perspective, it is in the hopes of someone who is maybe walking through the paths that I did, don't have the same struggles, or that at least if they do see these scenarios that we describe, can recognize an opportunity for improvement. How about you?
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And I think one of the operating principles that you and I agreed upon was we wanted to provide some little light in the world or a resource for people to share stories or challenges, but also to give a perspective. We're both leadership and organizational and optimization coaches, and we wanted to give an opportunity to also give some tips on how to help you. Coaching is a big industry, both just for transparency's sake. Heather and I both come from corporate backgrounds, and oftentimes the coaching that gets expended or invested in is really on the senior leadership and not necessarily the folks on down. Now, there are leadership classes, that kind of thing. So I think our real goal is to provide maybe some comedic relief and, at times, but also a place for people to come and air their challenges and maybe laugh about them a little bit. We both, between the two of us, have a lot of experience. We've held a lot of our own corporate positions and worked in matrixed organizations. And people that work in matrixed organizations have a special kind of, can I call it, can I say it? Hell. I loved working in matrix organizations. I kind of always thought I felt like I was Radar Riley from MASH, if that's not too old. So I think, again, we wanted to provide really some industry insight. We're not the be all end all experts. I mean, we do have a degree of experience, but we are going to be also leaning into some thought leadership, some actual statistics and some, reliable industry sources. And I think if I can right now, Heather, I think one of the most interesting stats, and you and I talked about this several weeks ago, which points out the need to help improve morale, functionality, et cetera, within working environments, is a stat that I pulled, and I'm trying to see where it came from. It was a McKinsey stat. And one of the things, a study, and I will, by the way, in the description, y'all, we will put links to anything that we refer to. But I loved this. McKinsey said that companies that are invested in their employees and their organizations are 23% more profitable. And that S loses multi-million dollars a year in productivity just from employee attrition, from inefficient organizational structures, from bad leadership, ill, etc. So there's an end in mind both to help people and to help companies improve both working as well as the bottom line.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, as you were talking, I giggled when you said airing of the grievances because it makes me think of Seinfeld in the
Oh,
Festivus for the rest of us. And my sister actually implemented that into her family. They celebrate Festivus now, and
oh, they
in their
do?
family, they sit down to a dinner in December on whatever day it is, December 11th or whatever the day is, and they
Yeah,
air their grievances. And no matter what the subject matter is, they're allowed as a family to be like, this pissed me off or this is BS. And that's how I'm coming at this too. Like a lot of the person that I am, that people know me from work, is sarcastic, jokester, one-liners, and trying to bring a little bit of levity to the
yes,
nonsense. And so I will often have a movie clip in my head or a TV show or a phrase that somebody says that it brings me back to those moments of laughter, even though we're dealing with things that can be super frustrating and off-putting and where people will walk out the door because of it. So let's try to change those opportunities or those challenges into opportunities for people.
right, right. We just hit it off, and we took our friendship offline and started developing this. We found out that we had a lot of the same kind of viewpoints and experiences, and we both have coached people or are coaching people in different capacities in organizations and mentored as well. We've seen some degree of, trying to be humble here, some degree of success from some of our clients in applying some of the things that we've suggested that they do. So we thought it'd be a good place to do that. We've got some training, and we've got, we certainly continually do reading, and we engage with a lot of businesses and classes and all that good stuff and certifications, but we're not the be all end all, everybody. So what I want to also encourage people to do, as well as airing your grievances, and we can call it Monday Festivus, whatever.
Well,
That wasn't very,
unfiltered, I mean, that's where we
and
got the
yeah,
name
that's
from.
you're right. I was trying to be funny. That wasn't
I know.
very, very funny. Is to share with us, sorry, share with us any of your challenges, but any other things that you've come to the table with to solve them,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
So this really isn't just about, you know, bitching and moaning around the coffee pot. It's also about like, how can we help? And, as people get more and more stressed at work and layoffs happen, let's just call a spade because, the economy is challenging and people, want to keep their jobs, is how can we make all that time you spent at work? And even if you're hybrid or work remotely, there's still the stuff that you have to deal with. So that's really the goal. And so I'd love to encourage everybody to like write to us. There's an email address that we have for our podcast. And we're going to come up with some suggestions that have worked, or thought leaders have made suggestions. And you're going to hear me talk about some folks that I follow. But so just want to say that because we're not the be all end alls. So we really do want this to be a participatory podcast.
Yeah, and Mondays Unfiltered came from let's just talk about the BS because we were just sharing stories amongst each other about what we had experienced and how we had wished XYZ was done. And, maybe that's why we're no longer there or why we changed roles within an organization. And like some of the stats, we've heard a million times, people leave jobs because of people, not because of the work, because I can't even count the number of times that I left a role to go do another role at another company, but it was the same job. It was just new people. And one of my favorite things that I've heard in my career before was the grass may be greener on the other side of the fence because it's fertilized with bullshit.
It's damn good bullshit too. Yeah. So no, that's true. I mean, think about jobs that you've had where I can think of some where I've had really, really good managers or leaders. And I had one, in the earlier days I'd worked for 4 years, and he, announced he got a job at another competitive big media company, and I cried.
Mm,
That it just,
yeah.
and then I cried. I didn't cry at work. I cried privately, but
I cried at work
then,
a lot, and that's why we're doing this.
but, and then I've had where really, 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 really bad managers. I can think of a lot of those where you are crying on a daily basis, either when you're shutting down your laptop or driving home or wherever that is, you're dreading going there. And it's because of the management
Mhm.
or lack of communication or lack of
And yet
alignment
they're
or
kept. And so the question is why? And like there was a situation that I was in for several years that someone was like, I don't understand why that person is still here. And the response would be like, they have dirt on someone and they're holding it over them. And I'm like, that's horrible if that's really the reason.
that. Or, yeah, maybe it is that. Who kn- I, that It's the Peter principle. My mom used to talk about it all the time. Is like, the Peter principle is that they just get promoted because they don't know what else to do with them, and the people that are good at their jobs just stay where they're at.
Well, who's Peter?
That it's an allegory. It's called
Huh,
the Peter principle.
I'll have to look it up.
I'll have to go look it up. I'll try to find it. I don't want to like pull up my Google to look at it really quick. It's 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 basically the idiots get promoted.
Mhm.
That's the Peter principle.
Super generalization.
Yeah, it is. But my mom had a funny sense of humor. No, it's funny because like when I started at America Online back in like 2000, 2001, no 2000,
Are they
it's
still
fairly
around? They are still around, right?
they are still around. Yeah, an Italian company bought because the membership on the mail is still pretty
You've got
active.
mail.
Yeah. Oh, my mom had my +1 count, and she just loved that, like that it said that. So such a, it was back then, it was like groundbreaking,
It
nowadays
was.
it's
My
so
computer
old.
talked to me.
Yeah, exactly. Now with AI, it's kind of like, I don't know if you've seen, for whatever reason, over the Christmas break, I started rewatching the Terminator films,
Really?
with Arnold
Yeah,
Schwarzenegger.
yeah.
And the
Skynet.
the special effects were so hilarious. They look like a bunch of Tinker Toys,
Hmm.
like claymation
Hmm.
versus the way they do, GCI
Yeah,
nowadays and green screens and
yeah,
stuff
it's
and,
crazy.
and
I just saw
AI.
a movie last week, Songs, which was spectacular.
Was it good?
Oh my gosh, it was so good. Highly recommend it. But I won't give away, but there's a piece of it when you see it, you're going to be like, how did they do that? And it's CGI and it was like it was done fabulously.
Oh, wow. Yeah. No, anyway, so what I was saying is back at AOL, and I got way off track because I'll do that, pull me back on track. They were hiring a bunch of like MBAs out of, Harvard, Stanford, Yale, et cetera, because they had a lot of money. They had a lot of seed money. And so they were pulling in all these people. And not to say that a Harvard MBA isn't awesome, it's great. But I was assigned to this small team, and I can't even remember what they were focused on. That they had this Harvard MBA they brought in, and he would sit in his office because back then we had to go in the office with his door closed all the time.
Mm.
And I don't even remember his team around very much. He might have had one or two people. I don't think he really had much to do, but he would, on a weekly basis, he had a tailor do his clothes.
What?
And he was a
Weekly?
bit of he was a bit of a dweeb. So, but he fancied himself, you know, a catch. And he had a tailor about 25 minutes away. We used to do a lot with delivery people, right? Like
Mhm.
document delivery and stuff like that.
Speedy delivery.
He would send a delivery team or a delivery company out to go pick up his pants from the tailor to bring it to the office so he could get dressed to go out to happy hour or whatever he was doing, and he charged it to
What?
AOS.
Oh my gosh.
And I think he was just in some corner of there was so much going on and so much money all over
Nobody
the
saw it.
place
Yeah.
that nobody saw it. And finally, like, probably about a year later, it was like let go. I mean, they had reorgs sometimes every 6 months. And I think somebody caught on to him, but I'm like, somebody needed to audit his
Mm-hmm.
expense reports because, he's sending out for his pants. Like,
Yeah.
that's
That makes it, there's two things that came to mind when you're talking about that. Again, like I said, I'm like a movie TV show buff. Even though I don't sit down and watch that much anymore, but back in the day, I watched my fair share, and it makes me think of in Office Space when they're sitting with the consultants and they go, "What would you say you do here?"
yes. I don't, and had I been a little older at the time, a little more experienced, if the Bobs came into me and asked me that, I probably would have had a very terse answer and said something like really inappropriate. And is like, I work for this idiot. We don't do anything. And all he does is get his golf clubs polished and his pants hemmed and ironed before he goes out.
Yeah. And the
And
other surprising part of that story that you shared was seed money at OL. Like for me to even fathom that at one time they were a concept and they needed seed money to be implemented, to be created, because in my mind it was just like they were the it thing, like they were the big dog and they just came in and ran. And for me to even consider that at one point they were a startup is like weird for my brain to comprehend.
yeah, I mean, they were. And it was amazing, how big they got and how convoluted they were buying companies and all that kind of stuff. And that's where I really learned to, and when I think about this, I'm thinking, oh, this is really like playing, on the monkey bars. What were
They were
those?
monkey bars, yeah.
They're monkey bars. And you're kind of leaping all over the place. The kids are like chaotic. And that's kind of like what it felt like a little bit because they kept buying
Interesting.
companies and things changed all the time. It was a lot of fun, but I learned how to work in a matrix there.
Hmm.
And that's a special kind of talent because when you're working in a matrix, you have projects that you have to get done, you have revenue that you have to drive, and the people that you have to depend on to do it don't often report in your line. So
Hmm.
these are the kinds of things we want to talk about,
Right.
and this is still going on. Certainly, AOL's old, and I've been at other companies, moved on to, software sales and data and customer data and all that kind of stuff. But, I still talk to, my clients and people that are, a friend of mine.
I started in corporate offices right after high school, and I worked in various industries, everything from finance and mortgage and insurance, accounting, to construction and manufacturing. And more recently, I've worked in professional services for attorneys. I went to school at one point for paralegal, and so my variety has quite a span of industries, but my skills were consistent throughout. So I was office services support, executive support, event planning, project managing, property management, all of the intricacies of the operational function of a business was my forte and still is. And I could talk about it forever because I spent so much time in it. And that's why people come to me for guidance and support and advice. And it's something that really, it's funny. My husband was at a party over the summer and he ran back to the house, and it was at our neighbor's house. He ran back and he was like, "You need to come over here." And I was like, "Why?" And he's like, they're saying things about their work and they're saying the words that you say. I don't know what you do, but you need to go talk to them because they're saying things that you talk about all the time. I'm like, okay. And so I went over and talked to him, but it was so funny. I mean, he and I have been married for more than 20 years. And for him,
Wow.
and we met when we were 19, and for him to be like, I don't know what you do, but they're saying your words. I was like, okay, okay,
That's
dear.
hilarious. That's like, I can tell they're speaking this language that you speak that I don't speak. But,
Right.
well, I think what's interesting about your background, Heather, is you've worked in so many different industries. And I think, kind of tightening this up or maybe closing up, this first session, I think that there's a common thread, no matter where you came from or what experience I've had, and you've had a lot of experiences in different industries, is that communication or lack of
Yeah.
communication, it's the same regardless of what you do. So
Hmm.
you talked earlier about, hey, the grass is greener over here because it's just really well fertilized. It's the same thing in industries. And I think it goes down to, hey, we're people,
Hmm.
right? And I'm going to talk a lot, probably mention Patrick Lencioni. He is part of the table group, and he's the one that writes these books, The Five
Like,
Dysfunctions of a Team.
yeah.
And the thing I love about him is that the way he expresses things is they're pretty simple, like five dysfunctions of a team, five dysfunctions of a CEO. And inevitably, it all comes down to ego and being more concerned about your own personal career, your own personal, how you look versus how you're producing.
Mm.
And so you can apply those principles in any situation. So it doesn't matter if you work in legal, it doesn't matter if you work in mortgage, it doesn't matter if you work in media,
Or even
it's
a
all
hair
the same.
salon.
Or hair salon. Yeah. One of my clients has a small, she's in the beauty industry. She has her own boutique. So I think our goal is just to help make things a little bit better, make things a little bit clearer, be a sounding board, be kind of like the who's the one, Dear Abby. So we're Mondays Unfiltered. We're Kristen and Heather, and I guess we're your Dear Abbies of workplace woes.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to it. I know we have a whole schedule that we've developed, but we're always looking for ideas and feedback. And not only, like you said earlier, not here to complain so much as to highlight opportunities for growth and even point out winning experiences where people are like, we heard your story about XYZ on this week, and here's how we've rectified it at our place, and it's doing really well. I want to hear all of those. And we have established an email address, and if you are listening to us now, we are up on YouTube, Mondays Unfiltered on YouTube, and looking forward to seeing where we can take this and having you come along with us.
Awesome.
Thanks. See
Thank
you next
you.
week.
Bye bye. That's it for this episode of Mondays Unfiltered. If something today made you laugh, think, cringe, or finally question the workplace norms you've been conditioned to accept, good. That's where change begins. If you enjoyed the conversation, hit subscribe, share the episode with someone who deserves a better Monday, and help us push the movement towards healthier, more human workplaces. And we want to hear your stories. The surprises, the successes, the dysfunction, the burnout, the breakthroughs, just send them our way. Your experience might shape a future episode. And remember, we can do better, we can be better, and we don't have to tolerate BS just because it feels familiar. Until next week, stay curious, stay courageous, and stay unfiltered.